Hey guys, don't forget to hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you can be notified every time I come up with a new video. Hi guys, what's up? Thank you so much for coming back. I'm Arpita and I welcome you back to the Crazy Wisdom. Alright, so today's video talks about the physical attributes of the zodiac signs, and we need to see what is there in their physical appearance, their body language, their personalities and their expressions that actually sets them apart from the rest of the people and which makes them easily recognizable in a crowd. And so let's get down and ahead with the video and see what the major prominent physical appearances of the various zodiac signs are. And so without further ado, put on your thinking caps and your wisdom boots. Let's get on and shoot. Alright, starting with the beginning of the belt, Aries. Now the most prominent thing and the first thing that you would notice about Aries is their large forehead. Now because Aries and Aries rising people especially control the first house of the horoscope and it rules the head and the upper part of our face, a majority of energy of an Aries is concentrated in their forehead area. They would be large, they would be broad, they would be wide, but they would be very, very prominent in the entire face. Their foreheads would occupy the maximum space, I would say, and their eyebrows are also very thick and uniformly placed and in tune with their foreheads, and they would be of a shape, whether they be thick or thin, they would be of the shape that would add more volume to their foreheads. The second thing about them is that they have very ripped and very hard facial expressions and body language, because there is this Martian energy flowing in them. There is this soldier-like energy flowing in an Aries, because of which even if they have smaller or regular frames, there would be a lot of toughness exuding out of them. Even a female Aryan would not look very petite and dainty and very weak or soft. They would have that strength reflecting in their body language that they are capable of doing and handling a lot of things. So this is one feature of an Aries, that they never look on the weaker side. And another thing, if you notice about Aries, is that they have a very naturally well-formed, well-built and an athletic sort of a body. Now because Aries signifies your body, it signifies the commencing of things, just like Pisces signifies the out of the body experiences and intuitiveness of a person. Aries is the beginning of human life, and therefore it represents the most natural form of human body, and naturally, before all the carbs and the sugar and the fats that we accumulate, naturally our bodies are very fit and very toned. You would find a lot of non-exercising Aries, but they would still have a very fit and a very maintained body. Alright, now talking about Taurians and Taurus rising people. Now because Taurus is the natural ruler of the second house of the horoscope, the majority of Taurians that you would see would have very, very beautifully formed and very well built necks and throat areas. Because that is the human body area that is controlled by the second house, and because of that you would see a lot of Taurians have a very long and beautiful neckline. It would be clearly visible in their entire personalities. And if we talk about their facial expressions, they would have one of the most sensual and one of the most attractive facial expressions. People would instantly get attracted to their faces because they have a lot of Venus energy exuding out of that. So, they would be in the category of the naturally attractive people. Apart from that, a lot of Taurians are seen to have a very melodious tone. Their voice is very soft and very sweet and very song-like. Even if you find them to be not good singers, they would still have very attractive voice quality. Their voice would be something that would help them grab instant attention. I'm not talking about the power of convincing or the power of influencing. I'm just talking about the beauty of the tone of their voices. And many times it is seen even to the extent that even if a Taurus just speaks, it looks like they're humming something or they're, singing something slowly. So it is a very melodious voice tone that they've gotten. Another very prominent trait of a Taurus body language is that they have a comparatively slower stride and a slower pace of walk as compared to the other signs, because they are the representatives of the strong silent bulls, and they are the fixed earth signs, so they have a very steady movement, and their steps are really, it looks like their steps are measured. Even if they meet you after a long time, they would approach you very, very steadily and very, very coolly. You would not see a lot of rush, a lot of recklessness or a lot of speed in their walks. Alright, coming over to Geminis now. Now one of the most prominent feature about them is their arms and shoulders. They would usually be seen to have very, very slender and long arms and very well built shoulders. In addition to this, you would also see them making a lot of hand movements. More than their words or more than their expressions, you would see a lot of Geminis using their hands to explain things or to express themselves. Another thing that you would notice about them would be their upright body language. You would hardly see a Gemini slouching and bending and lazing around, unless of course their planetary placements are pointing in the extremely opposite direction. A Gemini would always be seen to be very upright and alert. And the reason number one behind that is that they're ruled by Mercury, which is a very quick and fast and alert planet. And it gives the same energy, that same uprightness and same alertness to a Gemini. And the second reason is that Gemini is an air sign, and that air quality will get reflected in their eyes as well. If you closely notice a Gemini and a Gemini rising person's eyes, you would see them frequently drifting from one thing to the other, going from one information to the other. They would not be still or stable at one place or in one direction. So that sort of recklessness is usually seen in a Gemini's eyes. They're not stable at all. And the other thing that you would easily come to notice about a Gemini is their constantly, permanently stuck smile on their face. A Gemini is ruled by Mercury, as we know, and Mercury is the planet that signifies friends, and we are usually happier with our friends. So a Gemini has a very happy facial expression. Moving over to Cancerians. Now, one of the most prominent feature of a Cancerian physical appearance is that they have a very round face. As compared to the rest of the zodiac signs, they have fuller and rounder facial expressions. And not only their facial expressions, Cancerians as a whole can be observed to be more on the fuller and the plumper side. And even if you see a comparatively slimmer Cancerian, they would be muscular. They would not be very ripped and shredded like Aries or Sagittarians. And another very noticeable thing about a Cancerian is that they have a very open and a very warm body language. It is said that a Cancerian has a very big heart, and that clearly reflects in their body language. If you observe carefully, you would see that you find it more comfortable and easier to go and hug a Cancerian rather than any other sign of the entire belt. And therefore this thing sort of fits in very properly with the Cancerian, that they are huge-hearted people. And apart from that, you would also notice that in a crowd you can notice a Cancerian by their laughter. Even if you do not see their faces, and you would say that this is a crab laughing at a distance, because it is observed that they have one of the most innocent laughs in the entire belt. Because we know that a Cancerian is a very moody sign, and when they are in their down cycle, they would be cut off from the entire social circuit. But when they are in their upward swing, they would enjoy, and they would enjoy with their full hearts, and that reflects in their laughter as well. So it would be the most fresh, the most genuine, and the most contagious laughter in the entire group. And that is one more thing that would give them away. Alright, so moving over to Leos. Now, one of the most prominent features in a Leo personality is their hair. And the reason behind that is that they're naturally ruled by the lion. And just look at the way a lion carries their mane, with so much pride and with so much elegance. And it is one of the most distinguishable features in the entire animal circuit. And that is something that is reflected in Leos. They have a lot of pride and a lot of emotions attached with their hair, and they give a lot of attention to them. By the way they move their hands in their hair, or by the casual swish that they give every now and then, you would easily get to notice a Leo by the way they handle them. And it's not necessary for all Leos to have a lot of hair or very long hair, but the way they keep them, the way they maintain them will surely catch attention. So it is like they wear it like their crown, just like the lion carries its mane like a crown. Another very prominent thing about a typical Leo or Leo rising person is that they would naturally get a lot of attention. And the simple reason behind it is that when there is a lion in a room, does it go unnoticed? Definitely not. And therefore, a lot of attention gets shifted when a Leo is in a room, and especially from the opposite gender. You would see a lot of Leos getting a lot of attention from the opposite gender. And because Leos also rule the 5th house of the horoscope, which is the house of media and fame, and it is also a house that tells you the scope of being a celebrity, Leos somehow have a very good fashion sense. They have a very attractive dressing style, and that is another thing that gets noticed very instantly, when a Leo enters into a crowd or in a room. Their dressing style is amazing, and it is like you would stop for a moment and look at them and their entire personality, and it would be something that would make you say, this person knows about themselves, and this person knows how to carry themselves. And if we talk about a Leo's facial expressions, they have very bossy looks on their faces. It is like I am the king and I know what I'm saying or what I'm talking about or what I'm doing. And that gets reflected in their facial expressions. It is like, do not tell me or do not command me, because that goes the other way around. And they clearly look like someone who can easily fit into the commanding position. Alright, moving over to Virgos. Now, if you want to find a Virgo, do not enter into a crowd or do not enter into a place that has a lot of people. And even if you do, and even if you want to find a typical Virgo or Virgo rising there, look for the person who's very silent and who's observing more, because that is how a typical Virgo is. They do not speak a lot. They would usually be amalgamated in the background, but if you closely notice a Virgo's eyes, they would be very, very rapid and they would be going from one point to the other very, very quickly. They have, and I would call theirs to be hawk eyes, They grab in a lot of information. They take in everything that is happening around them while not becoming a part of it. And because, they have the natural Mercury influence on them, they are hungry for information, and that is what reflects from their eyes. And what is the difference between a Gemini and a Virgo then? Well, a Virgo is controlled by the more mature form of Mercury, and therefore they are stable. They are more stable than a Gemini. And apart from that, if we talk about the entire Virgo body language as a whole, they have a very spick and span look about them, They are very, very measured and they are very, very tidy in their ways. Even if they wear a shirt, it would be properly tucked in. They would not have awkwardly hanging ties and, plunging dresses and things like that. Their entire dress or the attire that they would carry would be very, very controlled. They would have it in control. It would be closer to their bodies and would be well maintained. It would be measured and it would be carefully set. Another thing, if you notice about a Virgo's facial expression, is that they would always have a very stressed look on their face. It would be like, some constant problem is going on in their mind and they need a constant solution to that. They're finding something out, or they want to escape out of a situation which is a tricky one, and that would reflect on their faces. They would have that stressed and that worrisome look on their face. And if you closely notice, a lot of Virgos would have a little crease on their foreheads, a frown on their foreheads. And this is exactly the reason why, their internal thoughts and their internal stress and tension sort of reflects on their faces. And apart from that, you would also find a lot of Virgo bodies to be very fit and maintained. And the reason behind that is not their focus on their looks or beauty, but because they're very, very health conscious and very concerned about their fitness and sort of scared of, issues and things happening with them, that they take, they give over attention to their bodies and to their fitness. And that is the primary reason why they take the road to fitness. And that is what, you get to see as a final product. You see a very fit and a very maintained and a very health conscious Virgo. So you would always find them on the healthier stalls and on the towards the healthier snacks. Coming over to Libras. Now, the first thing that goes without saying is that they're naturally very, very charming and very, very attractive. The face of a Libra is very sensual. Their features, their expressions, their entire facial setup is in a way that, it attracts a lot of energy from the opposite gender. So, they're very charming, they're very pleasing, and because they have that strong Venus influence on them, their faces never go unnoticed in a crowd or in a group or in a gathering, They're very pleasing, they have very soft and they have very polite facial expressions. And apart from that, Librans, because we know, are exceptionally well balanced as a sign. That is what exudes out of their body language, A Libra is never in the extreme of anything. You would not see them dressing very lavishly or in a very extravagant manner, and you would neither see them, getting underdressed. They would be just like the scales, sorted and balanced on both sides. And that is the reason why people are not able to point out at any starkly different or contrasting thing in their body language, which, separates them from the rest of the crowd. But, that is exactly the thing that actually helps people to notice them. They do not go overboard, they do not go completely behind the scenes. They're well amalgamated with the surroundings, So that is the kind of Libra balance that comes out in their personalities and in their body language as well. And another thing that you would easily notice about a Libra would be that they would be relatively slower in walking, They would be more towards the elegant side, and they would be more towards the side that reflects their lazy Libra personality a little more. So, they would be a little slower than the rest of the belt. Alright, talking about Scorpios, well, their eyes. That is the only thing that you need to recognize them. They have the most magnetic and the most spirally hypnotic eyes that you would ever see, And the reason is that they are ruled by the 8th house of unknown scenarios and nothingness, and that is exactly what you get when you stare at them. Their stare is so intimidating, and their stare is sometimes so scary that even if you're speaking something with sheer confidence, even if you are 100% sure that you know what you're talking about, the way that they stare at you would shudder you for a bit, and you would become conscious of your own facts, and you would become unsure of what you are saying. So a Scorpion gaze is too strong to pass, and that is something that actually gives them away. And apart from this one thing, a Scorpio has a lot of dark about their entire body language and about their entire physical attributes, be it the color of their hair or their eyes. Everything is in a sharp contrast to their rest of the features. Everything is sort of up and down, and everything is sort of black and white. So their features, their physical expressions are not blended into one another. Everything stands out very sharply in contrast to each other. So that is what gets noticed about them. They're very sharp, very piercing expressions, and everything is sort of well defined, be it in their body language or be it in their facial expressions. Now moving over to Sagittarians, and firstly talking about their physical appearance. Now Sagittarius rules the 9th house of the horoscope, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion, which is the planet that expands and magnifies each and everything. And because the body part that the 9th house controls is the leg and thigh muscles, you would find a lot of Sagittarians will be having very, very well defined, large, or very well built thigh muscles and leg muscles. And apart from that, Sagittarians are seen to be pretty dramatic in their dressing sense, or in the way that they behave in a crowd or in a group, because they are attention grabbers, they are extravagant, they are Jupiter, and Jupiter magnifies everything. Jupiter is one of the largest planets, and they cannot stay merged in the background or merged in the crowd. So they do things, or they speak things, or they dress up in a way, or they carry themselves in a way that catches attention naturally. And that is the reason why you notice a Sagittarius very, very quickly. On the flip side though, they might be a little clumsy in their appearance and in their dressing sense, mainly because a Sagittarian's mind is occupied elsewhere completely, in grabbing as much information as possible and dissipating it to as much sources as possible. So they might not be able to focus that much on how they are appearing, or how they are looking, or how their personality is getting perceived in front of everyone else who's who they are going to meet. But in any which ways, be it the clumsy ones, or be it the weaker and the petite and the softer looking Sagittarians, they would have something in their entire personality and in their expressions, in their body language, or in the way they speak, that it would grab attention of the entire room and for the entire evening. And once a Sagittarius and their knowledge starts to speak, no one actually has to say anything for the rest of the night. So everything about a Sagittarius is big and expansive. And another thing that you would notice about a typical Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising is that they would be very quick and swift on their feet, because they are represented by the half human, half centaur form, and that gives them a lot of speed, that gives them a lot of energy and a lot of stamina to be at different places and do a lot of different things. So there would be a lot of swiftness and a lot of energy in their stride, in the way they talk, in the way they walk, and in the way they actually deal with people. Alright, moving on to Capricorns. Now the first and the foremost thing about a Capricorn is body hair. A Capricorn usually has a lot of hair growth, and even the Capricorn girls, they would have comparatively longer and thicker hair. The next prominent thing about the Capricorn body language is that they are very safe and guarded when it comes to dressing up, or when it comes to appearing in groups or in parties or in gatherings, because a Capricorn is a sign which is extremely concerned about their image and their social status and how they're getting perceived in the society. So even if they are, for an example, they have to attend a wedding, they would still be on the safer side, the less blingy and the less flashy and the less eye-catchy side, because there is something about this image that they are concerned of, and therefore they would always be seen to be working in those boundaries, and they would not go very extreme or out of the box, or they would not deploy quirky ways to showcase themselves or portray themselves in front of the society. So I would call them very subdued and very traditional when it comes to expressing themselves through their personalities and their body language. Next, if we talk about their facial expressions, they would have very straight and very no-nonsense type of expressions. You know, a typical Capricorn or Capricorn rising person would not be seen to be jumping in the middle of the crowd and becoming the part of the regular ho-hulla and the regular craziness, you know. They would actually be the ones who would be seen sitting along the sidelines and actually enjoying all the drama and observing all the craziness going on. And if we talk about physical attributes, a Capricorn is seen to be having very strong bones and very strong joints. And you know, there is something really prominent about their teeth as well. So, you know, be it in a positive way or in a negative way, their teeth would have something really prominent and really significant about it. So that is one thing. And another strong feature about them is that they have very poker faced expressions. You know, if you observe a Capricorn, you would never be able to guess what emotion is going on inside. You know, they would, especially when they are in a formal crowd or in a formal gathering, they would not give themselves away with their expression. So, you know, they would have a very firm and a very strong control over what sort of reactions they are giving. Now, moving over to Aquarians. Now, we know that Aquarians are one of the most unconventional people of the entire belt. And therefore, in their body language or in their physical appearance or in their facial expressions, the first thing that you would notice is something that you have never noticed before. You know, they would have some very weird, some very never known previously sort of expressions on their faces. You know, it would be like they're thinking of something exceptionally different and exceptionally non-understandable by the general human public. And their face expressions are normally very unreadable. You know, they have very quirky and very weird expressions when they talk to people or when they, you know, normally interact in a crowd. So that is one thing that gives them away actually. And apart from that, another very prominent thing about Aquarians is that they're uber unconventional, groundbreaking, out of the box sort of dressing sense. You know, if you observe Ranveer Singh closely, he has an Aquarius moon. And you know how his dressing sense is. You know, no one is able to guess what his next public appearance would give us or what it would be like. We just know that it would be something completely unseen and unknown before. So, you know, that is how Aquarians are. You know, as a trial case, just go up to a person who you think is looking exceptionally weird or unconventional or out of the box and is, you know, involved and engrossed in his own world and does not care about the surroundings, and just go up to him and say, you know, do you think that you are doing the right thing, or do you think you're dressed in an appropriate way, or do you think that you're speaking the right thing? And just observe their response. You know, if they get cautious and they get caught up in their own selves and they become very, very nervous, then obviously they're not the Aquarius category. But you know, if they develop even weirder expressions on their faces and they are like, what? I mean, what is your problem? Who are even you? And they exude even more confidence while talking to you. Just write it on a slate or write it on a rock that you've actually met an Aquarius. So, you know, that is how you recognize them. And be it their expressions, their body language, the way they dress up, or the way they carry themselves, or the way they interact with people, they have something which breaks the normal rules and they break the societal, you know, norms and regulations and the societal boundaries, and they actually do something or behave in a way that is over and above all these things. And another very prominent thing about Aquarians is that they would normally be on the leaner and the slender side, and you would not find a lot of plump Aquarians unless of course there's a lot of personality contrast in their horoscopes. Otherwise, normally they would be more towards the leaner and the longer side. Coming over to the last one, Pisces. Now, first and foremost, talking about their facial expressions. Now, because Pisces rules the 12th house of the horoscope, which is the house of spirituality and the other realm basically, you know, Pisces people always have this very dreamy and very imaginative and very outer worldly look and expression on their face. It is like they are on a different plane altogether. And if you look into their eyes are exceptionally deep and dreamy. You know, it would be like they're daydreaming or they're imagining something which is out of this plane altogether. You know, it is not earthly, and they would look like they are transporting themselves sometimes there and sometimes here. So it is like that. You know, these are the sort of expressions that come out especially from their eyes. You know, it is like a gateway to the other realm. Sometimes people with a strong Pisces presence in their charts, if they have a Pisces zodiac as well as a Pisces rising, and if their moon is in Pisces, then you know, these people are exceptionally imaginative and exceptionally intuitive, and that intuitiveness and that otherworldliness sort of reflects on their faces and in their eyes. So that is one thing about them. Talking about their physical appearance and body language, you would never see a Pisces overdone with makeup or accessories or having a very heavy dressing style. They would be very mild and they would be very in tune with the surroundings and with nature specifically, because again, the 12th house influence, they are more towards spirituality, they are more towards the reality of the entire system in which we are operating as humans, and because of that they have a very real touch in their personalities. So they would not have a lot of fake makeup on or a lot of fake accessories or dresses to accentuate their features. They would look very natural. They have a very natural and a very fresh touch to their personalities. Another very interesting thing to notice about a Pisces is that though they are very open to conversation and they are very welcoming and they have very soft and very smooth facial expressions when a person approaches them, and their face instantly lights up with a smile when someone comes to talk to them. But if you observe them as a stranger from a distance, you would see a very confused, a very nervous and a very guarded sort of a body language or facial expressions that they execute. They're usually unsure of scenarios and of people because Pisceans are somewhat away from all the worldly tacts and manipulation, and because they somehow get misled and misused by people because of their innocence. And that is why when you observe a Pisces from a distance, they look really nervous and guarded and very, very cautious of the environment that they are in or the people that they are surrounded with, because they do not want to trust anyone blindly, and then they do not want to get led on to things that they don't want to do or things that they do not want to accept, and that is why they have this guarded and sort of a closed body language. Alright guys, so with this I put a wrap on today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, don't forget to leave a cool thumbs up right underneath it, and do leave your comments on how you feel about the physical expressions and the body language and the various physical attributes of the different zodiac signs that you have met and interacted with, and what else and different do you think you have noticed about them. Also, do subscribe to the channel in order to stay updated with all the latest news on zodiacs, astrology and motivation. With this, I'll be meeting you again too soon, but don't forget to be crazy and wise until we meet for the next time. I'll see you guys soon now. Bye bye.